As a small business owner, I know it can be super enticing to just classify your workers as contractors to save money on taxes and not have to set up payroll. But before you do that, make sure you understand the difference and what you could be up against if you're caught misclassifying your workers. My name is Christina Hageny, and I'm president of Valor Payroll Solutions. We help small business owners across the country maintain compliance and get their payroll done right. So when it comes to deciding if your worker is an employee or a contractor, there are 6 factors that you should be looking at. Now, unfortunately, this is not a very precise way of doing it, meaning it's not as simple as if A, B, and C are true, then they are an employee, and if not, then they're a contractor. It is the totality of the relationship that should be looked at. But the 6 factors that you should be looking at are the opportunity for profit and loss, the investment by the worker and the employer, the degree of control, the permanence of the relationship, whether or not the work being performed is an integral part of the business, and then skills and initiative. So let's break down what each of those means and how you can figure out what type of worker you have. So when it comes to the opportunity for profit or loss, we're talking about if the worker has the ability to make decisions that directly affect the business's profitability. So some of the ways that you can determine opportunity for profit and loss are if the worker is able to set their own pay rate, if the worker is able to hire other workers like subcontractors. These are just a couple of ways that you can look at this criteria to see if your worker is an employee or contractor. When it comes to investment by the employer or the worker, we are talking about things like purchasing equipment. Who has purchased the equipment necessary to perform the work? Is this worker performing in cost-reducing activities? Can the worker invest time, effort, or money into going out and obtaining new clients? So if the worker is truly an independent contractor, they're really in business for themselves. So they're going to buy all their own equipment. They're going to operate a business. They're going to try to reduce costs and increase profit. And if you are controlling all aspects of this, then the worker is probably an employee and not a contractor. When it comes to the degree of permanence, although employees are not necessarily guaranteed a permanent work relationship, there is longevity to when they are hired, and there's usually no set end date. Or as on the other hand, true independent contractors are usually hired on a project basis with an end date. And so we're looking at the degree of permanence, but again, understanding that W-2 employees are not necessarily guaranteed permanent employment, but rather their employment is ongoing and there is no termination or set end date or project end date for which they will be held. When it comes to number 4, the nature and degree of control, we are talking about things like the worker setting their own schedule. Can the worker set their own pay rate? So this is a good one here because obviously employees are not setting their own pay rates, but contractors are. So that's a really easy way. If you would not allow this worker to set their own pay rate, they're probably an employee because you are the one with the control over the relationship and they are not. So they're not independent of you because you are making that decision for them. And number 5 is really my favorite in the new regulations that were released this year, and that is whether or not the work being performed is an integral part of the company's business. So a lot of times people get hung up on if the worker is bringing their own equipment, if they're making their own schedule. Now, this is really where the language kind of changed this year. And so what that's saying is if this work wasn't being performed, would the business still operate and be profitable? So if this is a main service that you offer to your clients and this worker is performing that service for you, then more than likely they are an employee and not a contractor because they're performing a service that is an integral part of your business. So keep that in mind when you're hiring. What work is this person doing? And is this really a part of our services? And if so, more than likely they are an employee. And then finally, skills and initiatives. Of course, we're not saying that you have to hire people without skills to classify them as an employee. But what we are saying is that normally independent contractors will already have the skills needed to perform the job, and you will not spend any time training them. You're hiring them to come in and do the work and hit the ground running, really without much interference, direction, control, training, or anything like that from the employer. So again, we're not saying that W-2 employees should have no skills, but we are saying that W-2 employees may need training, and that's a very normal part of onboarding a new employee, whereas your independent contractors are really going to be the ones that show up with the skills needed already to do the job, because you're not going to be training independent contractors. So what does this all mean? Well, first of all, because we have new language released this year, we are expecting better enforcement of these rules. I think with the gig economy, we have seen a large amount of people being classified as contractors. And so now we're kind of stepping back and saying, okay, well, let's revisit these rules and really try and make it more clear as to who is or is not an independent contractor. So again, independent contractors are in business for themselves. They are independent of your company. They should be able to offer their services to multiple clients. They should be able to go out, purchase whatever tools they need for the job, and maybe even hire subcontractors to get the job done. They should be free of your control and really only working with you to set the terms of the project, maybe a completion date, and how much it's going to cost. And other than that, they should be left on their own to do their thing. So if you are setting the pay rate for your worker, if you're telling them when or how to perform the work, if you're training them how to do the job, if you're providing the tools that they need for the job, or if they have really no opportunity to make any decisions that affect profitability, then you have a W-2 employee and not a contractor. And again, although it can be very enticing to take the easy route and just pay them their straight gross wage, not set up payroll, not deal with all the taxes, rest breaks, meal breaks, and all the things that come along with employees, it's wrong. And at the end of the day, as a small business owner, you really want to make sure that you're protecting your business, which means following the rules and the laws. Because although taxes are expensive and workers' comp is expensive, what will cost you even more is a lawsuit where you're still required to pay those things, but now you've had to make a huge time investment, maybe stop your business operations, and incur penalties or fines along with it. So we want to keep you out of trouble. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We are here to help you, and you can always find us online at valorpayrollsolutions.com.